So yeah, guys, we're gonna have another MagMod live chat today. Today we brought Tony Hoffer in, and Tony's actually Tony. You're out in Philadelphia, you said, or the suburbs of Philadelphia. Is that right?
Yep. Very rainy suburbs of Philadelphia today.
Is there any? We're getting rain here in Tucson as well. So I
Yeah,
guess
yeah, except in Tucson it's probably like 75 degrees and raining, and here it's 40. So
you're absolutely right. That is the truth. In fact, I actually enjoy it when it rains out here because it kind of just like you said, it's like almost like a warm rain. It feels wonderful. So
must be nice.
Yep. And then now I know your business, it's you and your wife, right? And then you guys have associates as well. And I understand she's not going to be able to join us today, but Amy, if you're around, give us a shout if you can hear. No?
Oh, she's got a pancake in her mouth. Hold on, real quick. There's Amy. Okay, that's it.
I think we saw her hiding underneath the pillow there.
That was great. I looked over and she was just like,
That's great. So guys, if you have not seen one of these yet, this is for everyone in the MagMod community. We do these live chats with incredible photographers around the country, in fact, around the world, actually. And today, like I said, we have Tony on with us, and Tony's going to basically tell us a little bit about some of the photos he's been creating using some MagMod modifiers. And you're mainly a wedding photographer, is that right?
Yeah. I would say, a good part of our business is weddings, and we have a team of like 6 people, and so most of that work is weddings. But Amy and I, we do some other things as well. I would say, a good part of our business is.
Sorry, hold on one. There we go. You should be. Are you picking up the?
Yeah, was that coming through me or you?
No, it's coming through me. Sorry. I turned on my phone so I could see the comments, and I picked up some of the feedback. Sorry about that.
Okay. So is there a way that I can actually see the comments without playing it or not?
Yeah, a great question. You can't. So in the program, in the video chat program that we have, you can't. There's like no way to see it there. But what I do is I usually will have I'll pull up my phone and just go to the MagMod community, and I'll have the chat running in the background so I can see it. Which by the way, guys, what Tony's basically referring to is that when you guys are listening to this live, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post those. And Tony, what I can do is I typically will just kind of see what comments are coming in, and as I see them, I just kind of throw them off to you. So
I can't think of 2 things at once usually, so that's good.
No, totally.
So anyway, Amy and I, we started our business like 10 years ago, 2007, and so a lot of our work is weddings, but we also do a decent amount of commercial work and portraits and things like that. So I have a few photos I'll kind of go through with some of that stuff too. We're always. I would say the one thing that's been consistent with our business is inconsistency. We are kind of constantly exploring to see if we want to do other things or go in new directions or try new things. So we really like playing around and just trying to discover new techniques and gear and stuff. But as far as the business as a whole, as far as like the 6 of us in our little like collective, it's mostly weddings as far as that stuff goes.
Yeah. No, I think creatives in general, we like to explore a lot. We like to try new things. We don't like to get kind of bogged down in the same monotonous thing, a lot. And I think that's just kind of how our minds work. We like to, kind of be out there and try different things always. So,
I can't imagine. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that would listen to this who are like a little more traditional, but for me, that's not like. Doing something the same twice has no appeal whatsoever. So, after a while, you just kind of have to get out there and put some new shoes on.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Hey, there's a few comments rolling in. I'll just mention these real fast before we jump into some of these photographs. Matthew Newman says, I recognize this guy from somewhere. And then Daniel Fugachu, I'm going to say that wrong. He says, sick beard, bro. So,
I've been working on this. Thanks, Daniel. This is a test subject still. We'll see. Oh, Amy's talking. Hold on. Oh yeah. Well, Amy is saying that I'm trying to channel Matthew Newman, who made the comment. He's a buddy of ours who we shot his wedding. We shot his wedding last year. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Oh, and I just said that's awesome. Matt Gruber said he's going to drink every time I say awesome during the live chat. So,
All right, it's noon. So could someone schedule to pick Matt up at 1 o'clock and take him to the hospital, please?
yeah. Good deal. Well, hey, Tony, let's jump right into these pictures. I know that's the favorite part for everybody. They enjoy looking at these photos and hearing, how they're created. So let's do that. I know the first one, if you don't mind, I would love to talk about one that we actually have highlighted on the MagMod page, and I think we have it in a brochure. In fact, it's one what was it? You had the DeLorean, the Back to the Future DeLorean, and you had some gels on the side. It looked like. Could you maybe start with that one? Tell us a little bit about that, and then I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. All right. Can you see my Lightroom?
We can.
Yeah. So let me know. Is this full screen now?
It is. Yep.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So this is a photo. This is Steve, and he owns and restored a DeLorean, which is pretty awesome. His wife Bree, she's actually a friend of ours and a photographer as well, who's in the group here. And we shot some portraits for them. I don't know, a couple years ago, and then she asked us if we could do this for Steve's birthday, and so. We got a bunch of shots of the car, and then I wanted to get a shot with him in it too. And I would say that this photo is actually probably a pretty good representation of the way that we use MagMods in general. We try to, one thing we can talk about, Trevor, and I wouldn't mind talking about actually, is sort of the technology of what's coming and going, because I think MagMod's been a little bit too far ahead of the curve in some ways. Not bad for MagMod, but I think the rest of the world is just catching up. Whereas, like, the modifiers I really like using just like haven't been there yet for speed lights, and that's changing over time. But so one of the ways I've used MagMods a lot over the past couple of years is something like this, whereas I use them for speed and convenience of doing things with like gels and grids and isolating light, even if they're not the main light source. So I think for a lot of our work, and especially like portrait and commercial work that we're doing, we're actually using strobes or big light sources, and then we're using MagMods as accent pieces, which is way faster than using gels on strobes and scrims and all that kind of stuff. So in this photo, it's probably pretty obvious, but there's 3 lights in this photo. If you're looking at it, in this direction, the light coming from the left is a blue gel. The light coming from the right is a red gel, and they're both placed pretty much at the same angle, kind of basically at like the front hood of the car, pointed back towards the camera, which is why there's a little flare. Kind of decided to do those 2 colors, mostly, I guess, because it kind of looked like police lights in a way, and I thought it kind of fit with like the look of a really, I don't know, interesting, cool looking car and a guy with his car, and then we just have one light coming from above, which was a strobe with I think it was a strip box in there or something, so the light kind of feathers as it goes below his face there.
Yeah, I love this. I actually 2 days ago I was on a photo shoot, and this was part of my inspiration. I basically set up 2 lights with 2 gels, similar thing, kind of flaring into the lens. Did you use anything besides gels on the swatches? Did you use any grids or anything else, or was it?
I don't think so, and I think the reason is because I wanted to get some coverage on the sides of the car as well as on the sides. And I think when I had grids on there, it restricted the light a little too much. And then I kind of liked the flare as well, because we were shooting at night. It just kind of looked a little more night-like.
Yeah.
The other thing I just remembered about this photo, and If I don't know if this guy's wife Bree, I don't know if she's in here or not, but if she is, maybe she could chime in. I kind of remember that we actually only had two lights because when we did this shoot, we actually lit a lot of it with a constant light because we were just lighting the car. But I think we only had a strobe and a speed light. So I actually believe this might be a composite where the blue light was in one photo and the red light was in a second, and then we had to merge both the colors for the final image. I don't know that for sure. It doesn't really make a difference other than it was more Photoshop work, but that may have been the case. Do you remember, Amy? Oh, Amy's saying we had two, so maybe not. I could be wrong. Yeah.
No, sure. Well, either way, it's a great image, and I think that concept of being able to use gels, not necessarily pointing at the subject, but pointing, kind of accenting or adding some color in different areas you photograph is one that we can all use. And like I said, I used it really for the first time this week, and I really enjoyed it. So I got some really cool results from it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good deal. Well, excellent. Well, thanks for sharing about that shot. I don't see any questions on it. Chris Portes just said, "Did you ever know that you're my hero?" I had to sing the last part. We got sexy, incredible man, things like that. So those, by the way, those are two separate comments. Sexy, and the next comment was incredible man.
All right, yeah, let's move on.
Let's pull up some other images there.
Cool. So I just grabbed a couple random things, but this is another example of the same kind of thing. Oh, you can full screen this. But this probably incorporates it a little bit more. So this is another portrait, and same thing. It had like what's this? I'm trying to remember. Oh, Amy says someone's asking a question. I'm trying to remember what the orange light was, if that was just a gelled softbox or not. But I know the blue light was a gelled MagMod, and that's one of the things I've been really enjoying. I mean, I've been using MagMod since before they even came out. Luckily, Spencer.
Yeah, I was gonna say you and Spencer were good friends, and you kind of tested some of the original MagMods, right?
Well, it's funny. Just yesterday, I was one of our photographers, Jim, and I were just kind of going through some stuff, and I was pulling up some old messages with on Facebook, and I was looking through because Spencer and I worked on the original MagMod logo together, and I have all the concept drawings of before there were even prototypes out that he sent, and it was pretty funny looking through some of the old designs and seeing how much better it ended up being than what he thought it was going to be.
That's cool. That's cool.
But anyway, yeah, one of the ways I've grown to really love using them is, again, just using color, but in this case, it actually sort of incorporates into the photo a little bit more. So I tend to use my MagMods as more hard light sources, and then if I want to mix in soft lights, I'll use strobes or bigger modifiers. Mm-hmm. And so that's the case here, where I had the blue kind of coming from that as a hard light from the side, and then something a little softer coming in from the right with the orange. And excuse me, this is kind of what I was getting to earlier. I think the technology is finally catching up. I know like Godox and Cheetah are coming out with these new lights that are shaped like speed lights, but have a lot of power and things like that. And I'm really excited to be able to finally start incorporating MagMods with big modifiers, because I think that's been the sort of where the industry has needed to catch up is like have this big awesome softbox and I have this big strobe, but I don't have any way of gelling this light blue without a whole bunch of gaffer tape and taking 5 minutes to do it. And so so I'm really excited in the direction that things are going, and the possibilities that it's going to open up even more so than what we have now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Being able to have more power at your hands, but being able to modify it, shape it, color it, that kind of stuff is going to be incredible. Yeah. I think the theme of this shot here, having that blue and gold, or that warmth, it's kind of been a theme that for those who have watched these live chats in the past, you've seen this a lot, where a lot of photographers will use the two complementary colors basically in their photographs. What was this shot for, Tony? Was this some kind of commercial image?
No, not necessarily. So this was actually just a personal project of ours. And this is something that we do, I would say, relatively often. I'm doing one tomorrow, actually, where
Mm-hmm.
basically if we see something that inspires us, or we have an idea, or, or if it's just, we just want to practice something, we try to pull a shoot together and just work on stuff just for no other reason than to practice and try to get better. And we've done that a lot over the years with just different topics, or things like that. And so for this shoot, I just had an idea where I wanted to do something super stylized. I was inspired by some things I saw, and so we got a friend of ours who does hair and makeup, and basically asked her to paint this girl gold, and then we painted another girl basically pink, and just kind of messed around and shot some portraits in a warehouse somewhere. So yeah, not really a point of it, just kind of building a portrait portfolio a little more and just trying some new things.
Yeah, and I say it's the time to get in that deliberate practice. Try things out and use gels and things. It's like these are the best times to experiment. So I
Yeah,
love it.
one of the big pet peeves I have in photography in general is people like trying to get answers for things online and trying to figure out, like, how do I do this without ever actually picking up a camera and trying it? And it's a big pet peeve of mine, because I know we've learned so much over the years. Like almost any skill we have has been acquired by just trying to practice and figure it out. And you learn so much more that way. And so I always recommend that to everyone, is just, stop asking questions. Don't ask people how they did it. Don't ask people what gear they use. Just go out and try to make it and see what happens.
That's such great advice, man. Really good advice. Love it. Hey, before we move on to another image real quick, there was a question by Esteban Robles. He was wondering, I believe this goes back to that very first image. He was asking about whether or not the flashes were on full power or not. Do you remember? I mean, they looked like it was on pretty high power because you had quite a bit of flash coming out, but at the same time you shot it at night.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm
they were
assuming.
bare. Yeah, they were bare and pointing towards the camera.
Oh,
Yeah. So let me go back to it. I mean, you can
so
see
yes.
here. So yeah. So just in the interest of what I just said about diagnosing images and trying them yourself, let's do a little study on this one. So I don't remember any of that, but I can probably figure it all out just by looking at the photo. So I said it was at night. So you figure the first thing you want to look for is like what existing light is here. So if you look, there's a light coming from above up here on the building. So just, from being a photographer, if you go out at night, you're shooting, it's completely dark, and you're getting an exposure on a building from a street light, you pretty much can guess what your exposure was. So I could probably tell you that I was at like 800 ISO, 100th or 200th of a second at like f2 or something like that, would be pretty close to getting that light on the back building. And then from there, you can start to figure out what the other lights were powered at. Because if I'm at 800 ISO and I have two bare lights basically pointing right at the camera, I'm not going to need much power from them. And in fact, they're probably going to be pretty low. So they were probably at like a 32nd or 64th or something like that.
That's what I would guess as well.
And then, the light that was on him, was through a softbox. So it needs a little more power. It was probably, a 16th or something like that. The only other way of describing it was if I did shoot a slower shutter speed, I could have shot at ISO 100, shot at a 15th of a second or something, just held still, and then all your lights collectively need more power, and the ambient light would still be the same. But I would say most likely they were actually powered down pretty low, and I can only judge that because there's so much ambient light in there.
And it's interesting that the way you answered that and the way you talked about it and kind of dissected the photograph is something that it only comes with that experience. It only comes with being able to go out there and shoot and just kind of get familiar with, I'm out photographing and I, like you said, like being able to shoot it when you're pulling in the ambient light from the street, that kind of stuff. And then knowing, if you're at, 800 ISO, kind of roughly where my flash power is going to be, or it's all that kind of stuff. It only comes with, it doesn't come by asking questions as far as, what were your settings on this photograph? It comes with actually going out there and experiencing that and having that experience. So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry, that's one of the best traits too, like for wedding photographers like us or a lot of people that are watching, is not only being able to reverse engineer an image, but also to reverse engineer settings, because that's one of the greatest skills you can have, is just being ready. I mean, everyone knows that, like, if your eye's not up to the camera when the picture happens, you miss it. And so if I can walk into a room and automatically adjust my settings without ever looking at my camera, then I'm ready to shoot right away. And that, it just comes with time and practice, knowing what the light settings are before you even look at your meter. And so, I would, I tell everyone I can, just get in front of your camera more, or I should say, get behind your camera more.
Yeah. I think of like musicians, like someone with a guitar that can, listen to a song and immediately just start to play it just by listening to it. That's kind of how you have to have that same kind of skill as a photographer, being able to look at a photograph and say, okay, I kind of have an idea how to shoot that just because of the experience and so forth. Anyhow, let's grab another one of your shots there. I know you have so many great ones, and I would hate to run out of time. So
I'll just really quickly touch on this one, because this was the same girl as the last one from the same shoot. And so this had 3 lights in it. I'm gonna just kind of mention it real quick. So this was actually shot with a backdrop that we use for our photo booths when we do weddings. And so in this case, I had a light with a MagMod on it, excuse me, and a grid shining towards the backdrop. And so I angled both the backdrop and the light so that I would get these reflections and get all these bokeh circles in the back. And so again, just using lights to kind of create the effects I want. And then as far as the actual girl, those are 2 soft boxes, one basically straight from the camera just for fill, and then one basically straight from the left that are creating all the highlights on her face and her chest. So so that's kind of just a related image. We can show some.
I love how you use that little bit of light in the background there just to create, like you said, those bokeh circles basically bouncing off. I'm assuming it's one of those kind of glittery backgrounds, like the ones that have the big, what do you call it, sequins or whatever? Is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly. So, the further away you get from it, the bigger those circles become, basically.
Yeah, love it.
Let's show some other stuff here. I'm trying to think of what can be related to this. I can't even see what that one is. So one of the ways that we've sort of tried to use MagMods in an everyday situation, I'm personally not real big on making things look really flashy. That's kind of a pet peeve of mine, if I'm being honest, is looking at an image and saying, like, if someone who doesn't know photography can tell that a flash is used, it's not always my favorite image usually. So in this case, we kind of had this really epic looking situation where the bride was going to walk down the aisle, but the light was just weird. You can actually see little hints of it at the bottom of the stairs. It was kind of green, so the room itself was amber, but the where she was walking down was like that fluorescent blinking green. And so basically, we mounted a flash like up kind of around these stairs, kind of go up like 3 stories. So we mounted a flash like up on the 2nd story, just straight above, maybe about 10 minutes before the ceremony, and just kind of lit up the stairs. But the goal is really to keep it balanced so that you can still see the people in the audience. You can still see her parents waiting for her, and that she's exposed well. So you can still see the whole scene, but you're using the light to accentuate the parts that you want to accentuate. Because as soon as you lose the guests, it's a portrait. It's not a real moment anymore. And so, usually when we're using MagMods during the wedding day, it's just to do something quick to sort of balance our scene in a way that draws the attention where we want it.
I love that. Now, once the bride hit the bottom of the stairs, did you just have your camera settings where you were able to adjust back and just shot natural ambient light as she walked down the aisle, or did you also set up some kind of flash along the way?
Um, I think we just shot natural light for her coming down the aisle. The room was dark, but it wasn't quite as dark as it looks here.
Yeah.
So usually, I mean, Amy sometimes shoots the aisle, sometimes I do. Usually when or both of us have two cameras, so I'll usually have one set up for something more dramatic like this, like a 35 millimeter or something. Maybe this was a 50, I don't remember. And then probably had something much longer on my other camera that was already set to shoot natural light. So I got, more sort of close up expressions and stuff as the bride and her parents walked down.
Yeah.
So that way. Oh, Amy's chiming in. Yeah, Amy said it's kind of a rare occasion when we use flash, like on an aisle or in a ceremony or something, where it's kind of like what I said about our philosophy on flash in general is not making images look too flashy. We kind of feel the same way about just our clients' experience on the wedding day, is we don't necessarily want them to notice a whole lot of flashing. So if we use it, it's usually sparingly or very subtly if we can.
You know what though, in a shot like this, in order to make it work, you have to pre-visualize that ahead of time. I mean, you have to know, like you're saying with the audience, for example, and not going too dark, and being able to set that up and know that, okay, the bride's going to be coming here. I'm going to have my flash ahead of time pointed down. Like, it all has to be, and that's one of the things, again, we've chatted about this before in the past, but it's like, it's all about being able to see it here before it actually happens. Love that, man. Great shot.
Thanks. A lot of it too, honestly, is it's a matter of I don't want to say experience, but it is a matter of sort of figuring out client expectations early on. I mean, like, I could probably make the argument that a photo like this came from years of trying to figure out things like timelines or expectation or stuff like that, just so that, like, this couple basically knew that we weren't going to be shooting portraits up until a minute before she walks down the aisle or something like that. And then it also comes from trusting the other person you're shooting with if you're shooting with someone else. Because, like, in a situation like this, I probably went down to the ceremony and started thinking through it for 10 or 15 minutes. Meanwhile, the bride and groom were just relaxing because we built in enough time for them to do that. And then Amy was probably sitting there shooting with them, so we weren't missing anything there. So it's not just a matter of, like, pre-visualizing it, but it's also giving yourself the time and the opportunities to do that throughout the day.
That's a great point. Yeah. Love it.
I'm not. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm not gonna say it's awesome, because I don't want Matt to end up in the hospital.
Yeah, you don't want to kill his liver. Let's see. So some other things that we are doing. So one of the things that, there's a couple others here I can talk about. One of the things that we really like using the gels and sometimes the grids for is replicating natural light. So I think one of the frustrations that a lot of photographers have is they'll go out, they'll do a shoot, and like this happened to us the other day. Actually, we were doing a headshot. There was this really cool sliver of sunlight, and within 5 minutes, it's completely gone. And by the time you get there or do whatever, and so one of the things I remember from this shoot in particular was we actually had a little sliver of sunlight kind of shining right through the field. And by the time our couple sat down and we made sure that they weren't getting bugs up their pants or whatever, like, it took a while, and the sun was gone. And so we just throw a little half CTO gel on a MagMod, put it off camera, and we might have even had a grid. I don't remember. But, you just kind of shine it right through, and all of a sudden you got your little strip of sunlight back, and it helps you identify your subject within a kind of messy frame like this.
Yeah, brings light to them and adds some dimension to their face, so they're not just flat, Yeah. Love that. So you said here you basically would have just used like a half gel or something just to kind of complement that sun, or what was the sun there?
Yeah,
Is
I
that right?
mean, yeah, honestly, you know, for me, something like this isn't a matter of making something look uh, epic or unnatural. This was really just trying to completely copy what was there 5 minutes before.
Yeah.
So even down to the color, you know, I feel like sometimes if you use like a full gel, like you can actually see in the girl's shirt, it kind of goes a little on the blue side, which is what happens, you know, at a sunset. Um, but if you start to go full gel, then all the wheat and everything's turning blue, which makes no sense, you know. So
Yeah.
it's really just a matter of basically saying I can take my lights and I can replicate optimal natural light conditions. I don't have to make something that looks super fake. I can basically just use it and say, hey, this is what it actually could look like or what it did look like. So,
And Tony, your light on this shot, the light that's falling on her face, the bright side of the face, that's the light from the flash, right?
yes.
So do you find yourself lighting on the short side of the face a lot? Or kind of do
Yeah.
that short?
Yeah, usually for women. I mean, in this case, both
Mhm.
their faces are the same direction. But if I was, you know, choosing between the two, we're short lighting women almost exclusively if if we can help it.
Yeah. So one of the questions that come up, as Steven was asking, was the light pointed right at them. And so Steven, the reason I asked Tony that question was, so when you short light somebody, that light's going to be behind them just a tiny bit. So in other words, it's camera right, back just a little ways. You see where that light is hitting the wheat, where it's coming in. It was probably just behind that wheat, um, almost 90 degrees, but maybe just a tiny bit further. So that's why you're getting that light on her face on the back side there. So.
Yeah. Can you see when I zoom in on it like that?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
We can. Yeah, it's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, Trevor, I mean, what was the guy's name that asked the question? Sorry.
Uh, Esteban.
Sevan. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things with short light and broad light is just, you know, you start broad lighting people and their face looks wider. And so for most women, it's more flattering to short light. And so, yeah, I mean, the key for that is basically just positioning it in a way that you're getting light where you need it to. So even like it makes a big difference if you get a little light in the opposite eye as well. So like in her right eye here.
Yeah, a little
That
Rembrandt light right there. I like
yeah.
it.
Um, let's see what else we got here. Um, oh, this could be kind of interesting to talk through. So, you know, this isn't like my favorite image I've ever taken or anything. It's fine, but thought it was kind of cool because the bride got ready in this room, and you know, it was bright and during the day and everything, and then this is like late at night at the wedding, but they had this cool light coming in through the like you know off to the right there, basically behind the mirror. There's a big alcove, I guess, with a big window. So during the day, there was this really great light coming in, but by the time we got a chance to go back and shoot in there, obviously it was nighttime, it was gone. And so one of the things that we do a lot is basically just throw a MagMod somewhere and just save ourselves like 5 minutes of time. So instead of setting up a softbox or a strobe or something big, we can get this really nice soft light source by just throwing MagMod in a corner and just bouncing it off the wall. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we did here. There's just this alcove there, and we just kind of threw it in. I'm guessing we probably even had thanks. Yeah, thanks. I'm guessing we probably even had a grid on it, just so we didn't kind of blow out everything. And so if you have a gridded light that's kind of turned away from the couple and it's bouncing
Mm-hmm.
against the wall, you're basically creating a softbox that's coming back at them from the opposite angle. Um, and so with that, the closer your light and the grid are to the wall, the smaller your softbox is because the grid is creating, like a circular pattern to bounce back. So, if your grid is, 5 feet away from the wall, you probably made yourself like a 10-foot wide softbox or something. So we do that a lot, just like a quick, easy way of getting really nice soft light.
That's great. So just to reemphasize, then, your light is just to the left. It's camera right, but just to the groom's left in a little alcove with a grid pointed towards the wall. So it's basically hitting the wall, bouncing back, coming through, and creating that light on them.
That's correct.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's something. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just gave Matt another drink. That's all.
I'm right with you, Matt. I got my water now. Yeah. So anyway, that's something we do a lot. I love my big modifiers, and that's not always practical, especially with space or time concerns at a wedding. So one of the great things about having just a flash and a grid is in 2 seconds you can bounce it off anything you want, and you just made yourself a softbox.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip.
How much time do we got, Trevor? I don't know how long these things usually go.
Let's see. We're at 36 minutes right now, so maybe can we do maybe another 5 minutes or so? 5-10 minutes.
Whatever. Any questions from the peanut gallery yet?
I don't see anything yet. Usually, what will happen is, so sometimes after we publish these videos, a lot of times people will have questions in the chat. So I typically, guys, if you're watching, I typically will, kind of monitor it throughout the day. And if something comes up, if I can't answer it, Tony, I'm happy to tag you. If you wouldn't mind jumping in the community and maybe just checking out the chat sometime today as well, just to answer any of those questions that come up. And then for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, when we post it on there, feel free, guys, if you're not already a member, feel free to join the MagMod community on Facebook. Just search MagMod community. And that's where we have these conversations happening. And there's over 15,000 photographers in there sharing tips and tricks and all kinds of stuff. So come join us there for sure. With that, Tony, let's go through some more of these images. You have such great ones. Maybe what we can do is kind of maybe even do just a little bit more rapid fire. I'll try to keep my comments down, and you can just tell us more about all these shots.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just try to jump around here. So this one has no light. It's just natural light. Doesn't really fit what we're talking about. I just always liked it. So this was Times Square, and it was probably the most what's the word I'm looking for? Time intensive engagement photo we ever took. It took like a half hour between the time we found the spot and were able to get this store cleared out, and Amy was on patrol making sure no one else walked in the room, and then we waited for the right thing to pop up on screen. So it's been a favorite engagement image of ours for a while.
It's incredible. Hey, real quick, just for anyone who doesn't see it, go back to it one more time. You got to look for the silhouette in this shot. Anyhow, I won't say any more than that. They can go back and freeze it. We'll let them find it. It's one of those, I like, it's one of those images where it has punctum, where it's like you're looking at it and then all of a sudden you see that little thing that like stands out. All right, I promise to keep my comments low.
I brought this, I was just trying to find some. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, we're dancing right now. Sorry, I was just going to mention one thing. Christian Cardona, Christian's an amazing photographer as well. He asked, Tony, how many speedlights do you take to a wedding and do you use? How many speedlights do you take to a wedding and do you use an assistant to kind of help you with your lighting?
So Amy and I shoot together, and we never really have anyone else. Every once in a while, someone will tag along just for fun, but we don't have assistants or anyone that like holds lights or anything for us. Amy's dancing. I don't know why. Oh, yeah.
So she needs to do that on camera.
Yeah, I know. I thought she was trying to chime in. Yeah, so we don't have assistants or lights. So for a wedding, we usually take 5 or 6 speed lights, one for on camera, and then 2 or 3 for off camera. We always just have backups. And then so we'll usually just set them up where we want, and for a wedding reception, we kind of just leave them there and roll with it. So we kind of choose our angles appropriately. Amy and I are both very, I think we're just in general, we're very aware of our presence in a room, and so we don't want really people to notice us. I shouldn't say notice us. We don't want people to be bothered by us, and so I don't know, having an assistant walking around with the light shining at people never really worked for us. Um, and yeah, I think that answers it, right? That question.
Cool. Yep. Absolutely. I'll let you keep going. You're about to bring up that image of the couple in the fountain there.
Yeah, so I just was picking a couple sort of MagMod specific things. This is a great example for us of just the speed and convenience of having something that allows us to be spontaneous. I think one of the things I've noticed over the years is that the equipment you use sort of dictates the process that you end up having, and so the bigger and brighter and slower lights we have, the slower the shoot becomes. And so a lot of times we adjust our gear based on who we're shooting for. So if we have a couple we feel like it's going to be really all over the place and fun, we'll just take the MagMods. If we have a couple that's more stoic and slow and we're not really going anywhere, we'll just take the strobes, or sometimes a combination of both. And so for a couple like this, we threw two lights up. One's kind of basically behind the girl, camera left, basically behind the girl. The light behind her head is actually a street light. That's not one of ours. And then there's another light camera right. They're basically just opposite each other, because we knew they wanted to get in the fountain, and we basically said if we put the lights opposite each other, we can cover this whole fountain and just let them go to town, and we don't have to worry about lighting them or telling them to do anything, because the last thing we want to do is start telling them how to have fun. That way they can just do their thing. And so when we have people like this, having easy lights that we can just throw where we want and get the light where we want makes a big difference for us.
That's solid advice. I loved how you broke it down into picking the right modifier, the right flashes, even the right equipment to use based off the couple and the type of the shoot that you plan on having. And then that advice as far as telling people like, hey, this is how you splash water to make a great photograph or whatever. It's like, no, just let them have some fun and let them enjoy it, because it's about that experience as well. How you made them feel on the shoot, not so much, not just the photos themselves. So.
Yeah. I mean, you can always tweak things here and there, but I'd rather see what they do first and, just let them go to town, because usually it's going to be better.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Thank you.
I don't know if
somebody had asked about the mirror shot. They saw the mirror shot and they were curious if you could talk more about that
one. So this one took a little effort. This was in New Jersey somewhere, and they had this really cool wall of all these mirrors, but it was actually really challenging to figure out how to do it. And excuse me. Luckily, after their ceremony ended, we took photos beforehand, but the couple was willing to take a few more. And Amy ended up just hanging out with them, and she might have shot the family photos, or I forget how it went, but basically I really wanted to use this wall. And again, I knew it would take me time because I'm not very smart and it takes me a while. So I basically took like 5 or 10 minutes to myself, went over there and figured out the exact position I wanted. And then, we brought the couple in. We kind of treat it almost as if we're shooting a celebrity, where you want to be ready to go so that you can get the people in there, make it easy on them, and then get them out. So
nice.
So basically just got a composition that we liked, and then had to find a way to fit a light in here so I could make them stand out. And then basically that was the first two jobs. One was to figure out a place they could stand. The next was to figure out a place where we could put a light. And then the posing and all that kind of stuff was just according to whatever we had to do once we figured those two things out.
Gotcha. So do you remember what kind of light you did use on this one?
Yeah, this was just a little 24-inch softbox and a speed light. So.
Gotcha. And actually, no. Speaking of
no MagMods.
No, that's totally fine. We're all interested in lighting in general, so this is really good information. Tony, somebody had asked, Eddie, Megan, Enriquez, Rowe, had asked about the waterfall shot. What were some of the modifiers you used on that? Do you remember? We don't need to necessarily go back to it, but was it grids that you used there?
Oh, Yeah, these are just two lights with grids. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So just bare.
And then the same person, I believe it's Megan. She'd asked about starting packages for weddings. I think what her question was is if somebody was starting out as a wedding photographer, where they should start on price. I'm going to actually, Megan, if you don't mind, I'm going to leave that question open to the community, and so people can kind of give you some different options and ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to talk for 20 minutes if she wants to ask me that question. So.
Yeah, it is one of those questions where there's a lot to be said about it, but I just want to make sure she knew that we weren't missing it. But I think it's more of a question that we could comment more than anything.
Can I give her my 15-second answer real quick?
Yes, please.
All right. Treat yourself like a business. Do the work and figure out what it costs. There is a minimum cost that you need to charge to shoot weddings, and it's probably more than $2,000. If it's less than that, I'd be really surprised. Start there and then grow as your demand grows. Don't start under because you're a business and you need to make money. The end.
Yeah, I love it. I don't think there's more to be said. Great. Well, let's pick one more image here, Tony, and then maybe we can wrap with that one. I think there's a few there we haven't seen yet. Is there one in particular that stands out?
You know what? This one.
Or if you can't decide between two, we can do two more. We're not super time constrained, but I don't want to make it go too long for you as well.
No, it's fine. No, it's just that I'm a photographer, so I don't like any of my work anymore. I don't know.
That's so true, though, isn't it? We all do that. That's so true.
So I'll show one more portrait.
Okay.
So this is a cupcake maker, and we shot this in her kitchen, and which sounded great until we showed up and we realized it was like probably 5 feet wide and 6 feet long, and so it was a really challenging place. So I was actually standing in her shop outside the kitchen, and I had a big softbox in the doorway as well that was like just out of frame that's lighting her face from the front. And I ended up using, I think, 3 or 4 other lights in this shot that were all gridded, or I think one was just plain. But basically, we turned off all the lights and had to fill in the spots we wanted so that we could still, put the focus on her, but also highlight some of the stuff in her kitchen. So if you're looking at this photo, again, she was lit just with a single softbox. The tray that's in front with the cupcakes on it actually acted as a reflector and filled in some of the light underneath, which was nice. All the way in like the back left corner, kind of behind that blurry glove that you see hanging, there was a light with a grid on it, a mag grid on it, and that was pointed to the stuff on the right. There's like a tray of cupcakes and a whisk and that kind of stuff. So that light was just lighting those things. And then it had another light that was off camera right that was pointed at that cooling rack behind her. So that was adding some light on that. And then I actually had another light that was outside the room, pointed up at the ceiling, and it was basically just adding fill for the whole room. And then I think there might have been one more light that was coming in for some accent light on her, and I think I turned it off for this shot. But so something really simple ended up having like 5 different lights and probably like 3 or 4 different grids in there just to kind of isolate my light exactly where I wanted it, which was really helpful in a small room that was white and very reflective.
Well, I think without those lights, it would have just fallen very kind of dark behind her, and it wouldn't have you wouldn't be able to take, the whole idea of this portrait is to show that she's cooking and she's in this kitchen. And so the way you use lights to accent those little things in the background, just complement, is great. Love it. Hey, Tony. So a couple questions real quick. And by the way, people are asking if you could please talk about the green shot. So we'll have to end with the green shot, it sounds like. But the green one, the tree one, I think it is. Looks like
sure.
Yeah. But before we go into that real fast, Dave Gassier, he was wondering, he's wondering, why do you go with the softbox compared to the MagSphere? Is it because of the softness of the light? Is it because of the distance that you have it to the subject? What makes you choose a softbox to use it in your portraits?
Yeah, it's just all about the softness and the control of the light. The softbox allows you to basically say the light is going here and it's not going here. And on top of that, you can make it basically as big as you want. So the mag sphere with with or without a grid on it is great. It's going to soften your light. It's going to throw it around a little bit. But if you want light to go in a very specific direction and nowhere else, you need something that basically keeps it from doing that, and the softbox can do it. So.
Yeah, and I find that when I'm shooting something very, very close, when I have a light source very close to my subject, then I want it to be a bigger light source. I think I did a video once where I showed people if I have my light 8 feet back, for example, then the mag bounce is very comparable to an umbrella. But if I had it really close, then I would obviously want an umbrella or not even an umbrella. I would choose a softbox as well, just so that light comes out evenly. Yeah. And then Tony, before we get into that last shot, one other question. Apparently, when I was talking about wedding packages, I misunderstood. I thought they were referring to pricing on wedding packages. You still gave great advice, so I'm glad we covered that. Anyways, for those people watching, I guess what they were wondering was, as far as like on a wedding day, are there certain go-to modifiers that you find yourself using more often than not for a wedding? Like it sounds like you use a lot of grids. Do you have other things that you tend to go to?
Yeah, that's a very different question than we thought it was. Yeah, I mean, we have, I probably have like 10 different kinds of lights between speed lights and strobes and same thing with modifiers, softboxes, umbrellas, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like the same as an engagement session. Like I was saying to you, if we're gonna shoot a wedding in the city, and I know we're going to be walking all around the city, and our ceremony and portraits and reception are all in different places, I'm probably just taking like MagMods, grids and gels, and maybe like either an umbrella or like a speedlight softbox, and that's it. If we're going and like everything's at one venue and our car is never going to be more than 30 feet away from us, I'll probably take like a studio setup with like strobes and softboxes, because I can just grab something from my car and put it back. So it's really a matter of adjusting it to the wedding. We have lots of stuff to choose from.
Yeah, that makes sense. Excellent. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up with that shot of the tree.
Sure.
You were some kind of wizard here, it looks like.
I'm just really, really tall. No, this was there's a big place near us that has all these cool tree houses, and I think we shot in one of them, and then just kind of was looking up there, and I love the way the light was hitting these trees. So if you forget about the couple for a second and just look at the leaves, all of that light was natural. And then we ended up asking the couple to lay down in the spot that felt most bare. And yeah, so this is kind of another good example of restricting your light, which is why I like using grids, is because in an instance like this where you have a photo, if you take the people out of it, you have a photo and you're like, I love everything about the way the light's falling. I want to incorporate people into it. And then once you put your people in, you basically want to light them in a way that doesn't interrupt all the great stuff you already have naturally. So, just through a grid on the flash. I'm pretty sure this was just bare flash with the grid, just to kind of isolate them and draw your eye to the couple, but left the rest of it pretty much natural light.
That's excellent. I love your balance of using flash and ambient, and like you said, so that your photos don't look flashy. It almost looks like it complements that image. So
thanks. Yeah, this is probably a little more on the flashier side, I guess, but yeah, that's a goal if we can help it.
I kind of see it here as like, it almost looks like it's complementing that stream of light coming through the trees. You could almost imagine that it were that stream of light. So, Tony, let's bring you back so we can see your face. Yeah. And we'll go ahead and wrap things up. I wanted to make sure in the beginning I didn't let people know how they can find out more information about you. Tell us your website.
Yep, the website's just hofferphotography.com, HOFFER. And then some of the portraits and stuff I showed too, that's on our commercial site, which is hoffermedia.com.
Excellent. And are you speaking anywhere? Do you have any workshops, anything like that people, they want to find out more information about Tony?
Yeah. So the next thing, Amy and I are both speaking in London at the 9 Dots conference in November.
Nice.
Everything I've heard about that sounds amazing, and I know they're most of the way sold out at this point. So if you're interested in that, jump on it quick. We are actually doing a 1-day lighting workshop in London right after that conference, where we're going to basically going to start with 0 lights and just show all of our processes for shooting natural light, and then we're just going to add more and more and more, and eventually end the day with a whole bunch of stuff. So that's on schedule for that. We don't have any other workshops lined up right now. I think there will probably be something in the future, but
yeah,
who knows? We're busy shooting, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's rad. Hey, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Tony. I know for those who want to see a glimpse of Amy, I believe you guys were in one of our early MagMod videos, if I'm not mistaken. It might be on our website, in fact.
She's mysterious. She's yeah. Good luck getting a glimpse.
I keep thinking that she's going to pop her face out of like one of these little glass windows behind you in the door there. I'm ready for her to like peek out, but
you never know. Never know.
No, hey, Tony, really appreciate it. Matthew Newman just wanted to say that for your next project, you should do a beard selfie. So just throwing that out there.
I got some work to do still.
Yeah. And hey, a lot of people are grateful and we're gracious for the time that you've given. So as are we. So thank you so much for teaching us, and I've learned a ton. So really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.